Commander Ethan Reed stared at the surveillance footage, his jaw clenched tight. The purple-skinned woman being escorted through the underground facility wore restraints and kept her head down, but he would recognize her anywhere. Lyra. After 3 years of silence, of wondering if she'd ever been real or just another calculated move in interstellar politics, here she was, captured while illegally entering Earth's atmosphere. "Sir, the prisoner is secured in Interrogation Room 3, Lieutenant Foster reported, his voice betraying a hint of curiosity. Everyone at the base knew the stories, how Commander Reed had once worked closely with the Xenian diplomat during the first contact negotiations, and how she had disappeared without warning when relations between Earth and Xenia mysteriously deteriorated. "I'll handle this one personally," Ethan replied, his voice steadier than he felt. He straightened his uniform and walked down the sterile corridor, memories flooding back with each step. 3 years ago, the arrival of the Xenians had changed everything. A peaceful first contact that promised technological exchange and cultural enrichment. Lyra had been assigned as the primary liaison, and Ethan as her Earth counterpart. What had begun as professional cooperation evolved into friendship, then something deeper, something neither of them had anticipated. When he entered the interrogation room, Lyra's head snapped up. Her luminescent violet eyes widened, those familiar white eyebrows rising in surprise or relief, he couldn't tell which. Her long white hair was pulled back in a practical braid, revealing the delicate purple-hued features he had memorized. "Commander Reed," she said formally, though her melodic voice carried undertones only he would recognize. "You've been classified as a potential threat to planetary security," he stated coldly, activating the room's recording devices. "State your purpose for returning to Earth." Lyra's eyes darted to the cameras, then back to him. "I request a private audience. What I have to share concerns matters of the highest security." "That's not how this works. You abandoned the diplomatic mission without explanation. Shortly after, your government severed relations and issued threats against Earth. Now you return illegally. Give me one reason why I shouldn't treat you as a hostile agent." She leaned forward, chains clinking. "Because I'm here to prevent a war, Ethan. And because everything you think you know about why I left is wrong." His heart constricted at hearing his name on her lips again. "Explain." "The Xenian High Council has been infiltrated. The diplomatic breakdown wasn't natural, it was engineered by a faction called the Purifiers. They want war with Earth. They forced me to leave by threatening your life." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "I've spent 3 years gathering evidence, building networks among those who want peace. I came back because the Purifiers are planning an attack within days." Ethan maintained his stoic expression, but internally, doubt and hope waged war. Was this another manipulation, or the truth he'd desperately wanted to believe all along? "Show me evidence," he demanded. Lyra reached slowly into her pocket, guards immediately tensed, and withdrew a small crystalline device. "This contains everything. Names, plans, communications. But it's encoded with Xenian security protocols. I can only unlock it for someone with clearance." "Convenient," Ethan said bitterly. Lyra's gaze softened. "Remember the night on the observation deck, when you showed me Earth's constellations? You told me stories of sailors using stars to find their way home." Her voice trembled slightly. "I've been lost, Ethan. But I never stopped trying to find my way back to what matters." The reference to their private moment, one never recorded in any official log, struck him like a physical blow. Either she was telling the truth, or this was the cruelest manipulation imaginable. "Guards, leave us," he ordered suddenly. As they hesitated, he added, "Security protocols remain active. I need to pursue this line of questioning alone." When the door closed, Ethan moved closer. "You have 10 minutes to convince me, starting now." Lyra's purple fingers wrapped around the crystal. "It will take more than words this time," she whispered. "I need you to trust me enough to see." The crystal glowed between them, casting ethereal blue patterns across Lyra's purple skin. Ethan hesitated, his training screaming caution while his instincts pulled him toward trust. "This device contains Xenian psychometric technology," Lyra explained. "It doesn't just store data, it stores experiences, memories. Touch it with me, and you'll see what I've seen, feel what I've felt. You'll know if I'm lying." "That technology wasn't part of any disclosed Xenian capabilities," Ethan remarked suspiciously. "The Purifiers have kept many technologies secret, even from most Xenians," she countered. "How do you think they've maintained control? But this device was created by the Resistance. It's how we share information without electronic trails." Ethan studied her face, the face that had haunted his dreams for 3 years. He remembered their last night together, before everything fell apart. The warmth of her skin against his, the way her white hair seemed to capture moonlight. The promises they'd whispered. "If this is a trick," he began. "Then you'll have justification to lock me away forever," she finished. Ethan made his decision. He pressed his palm against the crystal, covering her fingers with his. The world dissolved around them. He was suddenly Lyra, standing before the towering figures of the Xenian High Council. Their voices thundered with accusations of human sympathizer and traitor to your kind. Then came the threat, holographic footage of Ethan's quarters, his movements tracked, weapon placements identified. "Return to Xenia immediately and sever all personal connections, or we cannot guarantee the commander's safety." The memory shifted. Years of clandestine meetings in the shadowy underbellies of Xenian cities. Discovering others who believed in peace. The painstaking collection of evidence revealing the Purifiers' plot, a false flag attack on their own colony to blame humans and justify full-scale war. Throughout it all, Ethan felt Lyra's emotions, her fear, determination, and most strikingly, her longing for him. The ache of separation that never diminished. When Ethan's consciousness returned to the interrogation room, he was breathing heavily. Lyra watched him, vulnerability evident in her eyes. "Now you know," she whispered. Without warning, Ethan reached across the table and captured her face in his hands. His lips found hers in a desperate kiss that contained 3 years of questions, anger, and unspoken longing. Her restraints clinked as she leaned into him, returning his intensity with equal measure. When they broke apart, Ethan's professional resolve had transformed. "We have about 30 seconds before someone comes through that door questioning why I turned off the cameras," he said hoarsely. Lyra's eyes widened. "You disabled the surveillance?" "The moment I recognized the technology. I've learned a few tricks since you left." He quickly released her restraints. "We need to move. If what you showed me is real, we have no time to navigate military bureaucracy." "It's real," she affirmed. "The attack is planned for the summit in Geneva, in less than 48 hours. The Purifiers have agents already positioned on Earth." Ethan helped her to her feet, their hands lingering together. "There's a rear exit through the maintenance corridor. I can get you to my private transport, but after that, we're on our own. I'll be going against direct orders." "You're risking everything," Lyra noted, searching his face. "So did you," he replied simply. As predicted, the door burst open, Lieutenant Foster appearing with security personnel. "Commander? The surveillance system has been compromised, possibly by the same hostile elements our guest was warning us about," Ethan interrupted smoothly. "Lieutenant, I'm initiating Protocol Obsidian. This facility may be compromised." Protocol Obsidian, the emergency measure granting commanding officers unilateral authority during imminent threats, was rarely invoked, but the mention of it caused immediate reaction. Alarms began to sound as Foster scrambled to follow procedure. In the ensuing controlled chaos, Ethan guided Lyra through service corridors and security checkpoints, using his override codes. Neither spoke until they reached his private shuttle in the auxiliary hangar. As the engines powered up, Lyra finally broke the silence. Even if we stop this attack, the purifiers will keep trying. Their hatred runs deep. Ethan's hand found hers across the console. Then we'll have to run deeper, he said, determination in his voice. Together this time. The shuttle lifted off, racing against a countdown only they knew was ticking. Geneva sparkled beneath the afternoon sun, oblivious to the danger converging upon it. From their vantage point in a secured apartment overlooking Lake Geneva, Ethan and Lyra studied holographic projections of the summit venue. The purifiers have operatives here, Lyra explained, manipulating the hologram to highlight security vulnerabilities. Their plan is elegant: detonate explosives during the Earth-Xenian reconciliation announcement, killing delegates from both worlds. Their agents on Xenia will simultaneously release evidence framing Earth for developing weapons against our biology. Ethan frowned. We need to identify these operatives before they can act. Do you have any descriptions? Better, Lyra replied, retrieving a small device from her clothing. Xenian operatives emit a specific bioelectric frequency when using certain technologies. This detector can identify them within 50 meters. Ethan raised an eyebrow. Impressive. But approaching the summit is going to be challenging. My access has likely been revoked after our unscheduled departure from the base. We don't need official access, Lyra said with a knowing smile. I have contacts in the Resistance with connections on Earth. Within hours, they were meeting with Dorian, a silver-haired man with intense gray eyes who operated a network of informants across both planets. Commander Reed, Dorian acknowledged with a nod. Lyra has spoken highly of you. Though I'm sure your superiors aren't speaking highly of you at the moment. Sacrifices were necessary, Ethan replied tersely. Dorian chuckled. Indeed. Well, I have what you need. He passed them credentials and security passes. These will get you into the service areas of the summit facility. My people have identified unusual activity in the environmental control systems. We believe that's where the purifiers will strike. As night fell over Geneva, Ethan found Lyra standing on the apartment's balcony, her purple skin luminescent in the moonlight. He approached silently, but she sensed his presence. On Xenia, we have no natural satellites, she said without turning. I missed Earth's moon while I was away. I missed many things. Ethan stood beside her, their shoulders almost touching. I tried to hate you, he admitted. It would have been easier. She turned to him then, her violet eyes searching his. And did you succeed? Instead of answering, Ethan drew her into his arms. Their kiss was different from the desperate reunion in the interrogation room, slower, deeper, filled with rediscovery. His hands traced the contours of her face, tangled in her silken white hair. Her fingers worked at the buttons of his shirt, seeking the warmth of his skin. They moved to the bedroom without breaking contact, shedding clothing as they went. In the dim light, Ethan marveled at the familiar yet exotic beauty of her body, the subtle patterns that adorned her purple skin, the strength and grace in her lithe form. When they came together, it was with the intensity of those who had thought such connection lost forever. Afterward, they lay entwined, her head resting on his chest as he traced lazy patterns along her spine. Tomorrow will be dangerous, she murmured against his skin. We've faced worse odds, he replied, though both knew this wasn't entirely true. Lyra propped herself up on one elbow, her white hair falling like a curtain around them. There's something I haven't told you, she confessed. If we succeed, if we expose the purifiers, I don't know if I can ever return to Xenia. The council members who aren't directly involved are still compromised, manipulated. I may be, without a home. Ethan cupped her cheek in his palm. You'll have a home, he said simply. The unspoken promise hung between them, more binding than any official oath. As dawn broke over the lake, they prepared methodically, checking equipment and rehearsing contingencies. The detector was secured in Lyra's clothing, their credentials verified. Before departing, Ethan received an encrypted message from an old military contact still willing to help. Security patterns have been altered last minute, he informed Lyra, studying the new information. They've doubled the guards at official entrances. The purifiers might have sensed a threat to their plans, Lyra suggested worriedly. Or someone from my chain of command has flagged me as a security risk, Ethan mused. Either way, we adapt. They approached the summit complex through underground utility tunnels, emerging into a service area bustling with staff preparing for the day's historic announcements. Ethan nodded to several workers, projecting the confidence of someone who belonged, while Lyra kept her head down, her distinctive features partially concealed by a service cap. The detector vibrated against Lyra's side as they neared the environmental control hub. She caught Ethan's eye, giving a subtle nod. They had found their target. But as they rounded the corner toward the control room, they came face to face with Lieutenant Foster, flanked by security personnel. Commander Reed, Foster said, his expression unreadable. You're a difficult man to find. Ethan's hand moved imperceptibly toward his concealed weapon as he evaluated their options. The narrow service corridor offered little room for maneuver, and Foster's team had the advantage of position. Lieutenant, Ethan acknowledged calmly. I'm afraid I don't have time to explain right now. There's an imminent threat to the summit. Foster's expression remained neutral. That's precisely why I'm here, sir. He stepped aside, revealing a doorway behind him. Dar. Nakamura is waiting for your briefing. We've been tracking purifier communications since you left the base. Relief washed over Ethan. Rei Nakamura was his former commanding officer and mentor, someone he trusted implicitly. You believe us? Let's just say your dramatic exit triggered some deeper investigation, Foster replied. Dr. Nakamura had already been monitoring unusual patterns in Zenian communications. Your actions accelerated certain contingency plans. Inside the secure room, Dr. Nakamura stood before a wall of holographic displays. The petite woman with steel-gray hair nodded briskly as they entered. Commander Reed, you have an exceptional talent for creating diplomatic incidents. And you must be Lyra. Her eyes, sharp with intelligence, assessed the Zenian woman. Your information has proven accurate so far. We've identified 3 purifier agents among the summit staff. Lyra stepped forward, activating her detector. There should be 5, according to my intelligence. The other 2 are likely already at the environmental controls, Ethan suggested. That's where we were heading when Foster intercepted us. Dr. Nakamura nodded. The control systems regulate air composition throughout the building. An ideal delivery system for a biological agent. Not just any agent, Lyra explained. It's designed to target humans while appearing to have come from Earth laboratories, furthering the narrative that humans were developing weapons against Zenians. We need to move now, Ethan urged. The announcements begin in less than 30 minutes. Dr. Nakamura gestured to Foster. Lieutenant, take your team to secure the delegates. Commander, you and Lyra will accompany me to the environmental controls. She retrieved a case containing specialized weapons. These are calibrated to incapacitate Zenian physiology without lethal effects, if possible. As they moved through the facility's restricted areas, Ethan and Lyra exchanged a meaningful glance. The trust Dr. Nakamura was showing would have been unthinkable days earlier. How did you convince your superiors? Ethan asked quietly as they traversed a maintenance shaft. I didn't, Dr. Nakamura replied matter-of-factly. This operation is unauthorized. If we're wrong, we'll all face court-martial. If we're right, they'll retroactively approve everything. At the entrance to the Environmental Control Center, Lyra's detector pulsed intensely. Dar. Nakamura signaled for silence, then used a scanner to reveal heat signatures inside, 3 figures moving with purpose around the central air processors. 3, not 2, Ethan whispered. They've consolidated their team. They breached the door in synchronized movement, weapons raised. The purifier agents, 2 male Xenians and 1 female, reacted with alarming speed. One immediately triggered a lockdown, sealing the exits, while the others drew weapons. "Step away from the controls, Dr. Nakamura commanded. The female purifier, clearly the leader, smiled coldly. Her purple skin was darker than Lyra's, marked with ceremonial scarification that identified her as a zealot. "How fitting that the traitor returns to witness our triumph," she said to Lyra in the Xenian language. "Vela," Lyra responded, recognizing her former superior. "The Council doesn't know the truth about what you're planning." "The Council sees what we allow them to see," Vela replied dismissively. "Just as these humans see only what we wish." Ethan kept his weapon trained on the male agents, who were inching toward a canister connected to the air system. "That device is already armed, isn't it?" he guessed. "And set to disperse when the summit leaders shake hands," Vela confirmed proudly. A symbolic moment for a symbolic cleansing. Dr. Nakamura began a calculated approach toward the control panel. "Whatever grievance you believe you have against Earth, this isn't the way to address it." Vela's attention snapped to her. "Grievance? You humans are a contagion in our galaxy. Your ideas, your individualism, your chaos, they infect our order. Lyra is proof of how your influence corrupts." As she spoke, one of the male agents lunged for the release trigger. Ethan fired, the specialized weapon emitting a pulse that dropped the Xenian instantly. The second male attacked Lyra, but her combat training proved superior. She disarmed him with a fluid movement, then incapacitated him with a precise strike to a nerve cluster. Vela, seeing her agents fall, drew a secondary weapon, a small device that pulsed with ominous energy. "If I cannot cleanse your species slowly, I will start with those in this room," she snarled, activating the device. Dr. Nakamura dove for the control panel, attempting to override the air system, while Ethan moved to engage Vela. Lyra, recognizing the deadly device, shouted a warning. "Ethan, it's a molecular destabilizer. Don't let it touch you." The ensuing struggle was brutal and swift. Vela fought with the strength of fanaticism, the destabilizer arcing dangerously close to Ethan several times. Lyra circled, seeking an opening, while Dr. Nakamura worked frantically at the controls. When the opportunity came, it was Lyra who took the greatest risk. She feinted to draw Vela's attention, then lunged directly into the path of the destabilizer to protect Ethan from a lethal strike. The device grazed her shoulder, instantly charring the flesh beneath her clothing. Her cry of pain distracted Vela just long enough for Ethan to disarm her with a decisive blow. As security forces breached the sealed door, responding to Dr. Nakamura's emergency signal, Ethan rushed to Lyra's side. The wound on her shoulder smoldered with unnatural energy, spreading visibly across her beautiful purple skin. "Stay with me," he urged, cradling her against him as Dr. Nakamura called urgently for medical support. "We've stopped them. It's over." Lyra's violet eyes found his, her white lashes fluttering with effort. "Not quite over," she whispered, her voice strained. "Vela is just one branch of the purifiers. There will be others. Then we'll stop them too," Ethan promised fiercely, his hand gently stroking her white hair as she fought to remain conscious. Together. As medical teams rushed in, the summit continued above them, the delegates unaware how close they had come to catastrophe, or that the future of two worlds had just been altered by a love that refused to surrender to hatred. 3 months later, Ethan stood on the observation deck of the newly established Joint Species Embassy, watching shuttles arrive for the first official diplomatic reception since the thwarted attack. The Geneva incident, as it had become known, had exposed the purifier conspiracy and led to a complete restructuring of the Xenian High Council, with the moderate faction now in leadership. His formal military uniform felt constraining after months of operating under less rigid protocols. As the newly appointed Human Security Director for Interspecies Relations, Ethan had spent weeks helping establish new verification systems and trust-building measures between Earth and Xenia. Nervous? Dr. Nakamura appeared beside him, also in formal attire. Her actions during the crisis had earned her promotion to Earth's chief ambassador to Xenia. About the reception? No, Ethan replied. About seeing Lyra officially for the first time since her return to Xenia? Absolutely. After recovering from her injuries, the molecular destabilizer had left a permanent silver-white mark across her shoulder and chest. Lyra had returned to her homeworld. Her testimony had been crucial in identifying purifier sympathizers throughout the Xenian government. Communication between them had been limited to formal channels as both worlds established new diplomatic protocols. She's arriving with the primary delegation, Dr. Nakamura informed him. As the new cultural exchange director, she'll be a key figure in tonight's ceremony. The ceremony itself was a showcase of new beginnings, human and Xenian art displayed side by side, musical performances that blended both worlds' traditions, and the unveiling of joint scientific initiatives. Throughout the evening, Ethan maintained his professional demeanor while constantly scanning the crowd for a glimpse of white hair and purple skin. He found her finally in the embassy's botanical garden, standing alone beside an arrangement of earth flowers and Xenian crystal plants. Her formal attire, a flowing silver gown that complemented her coloring, left her marked shoulder visible, the silver-white pattern now adorned with symbolic Xenian artistry that transformed the injury into something beautiful. Cultural Exchange Director, Ethan said softly as he approached. Congratulations on the appointment. Lyra turned, her violet eyes brightening at the sight of him. Security Director Reed, she replied with equal formality, though her lips curved into a smile. I hear you've implemented impressive new protocols. They stood in silence for a moment, the weight of protocol and public roles hanging between them. The silver marking suits you, he finally said, gesturing to her shoulder. Our healer suggested covering it, she admitted. But I chose to keep it visible. Some scars should be remembered, not hidden. Ethan stepped closer, professional reserve cracking. I've missed you, he said simply. The new council has been demanding, she explained. Rebuilding trust, establishing new systems. But effective tomorrow, my diplomatic duties will bring me to Earth on a permanent basis. Ethan's heart quickened. Permanent? The Council believes having a Xenian cultural attaché stationed on Earth will demonstrate our commitment to ongoing relations. Her eyes held his. I might have suggested the necessity of such a position. The diplomatic mask fell away completely as Ethan closed the distance between them. Their kiss was unhurried, a reunion and a promise. When they separated, both were aware of curious glances from passing delegates, human and Xenian alike. I should warn you, Lyra said, her hand finding his, that while the new council is progressive, there are still conservative elements who will disapprove of interspecies relationships. And I imagine some humans share similar prejudices. Let them disapprove, Ethan replied, interlacing his fingers with hers. We've faced worse than disapproving glances. Later that night, they stood on the balcony of Ethan's apartment overlooking the lights of the city. Lyra wore one of his shirts, her white hair loose around her shoulders, while Ethan traced the silver markings on her skin with gentle fingers. Do you think it will last? She asked quietly. The peace we've built? Peace is never permanent, he answered honestly. It requires constant maintenance, vigilance, compromise. Much like any relationship worth having. Lyra turned in his arms, studying his face in the moonlight. Speaking of relationships worth having, she began, a hint of mischief in her voice. The Xenian custom when establishing a permanent partnership involves an exchange of personal histories and a formal declaration of intent before community witnesses. Ethan smiled, pressing a kiss to her forehead. And the human custom traditionally involves rings, promises, and often elaborate ceremonies. Perhaps, Lyra suggested, we could create something new, a ceremony that honors both traditions while establishing its own meaning. A symbol for others who might follow our path. Ambassador Nakamura would probably approve, Ethan mused. She's been pushing for more cultural integration initiatives. Is that a yes, Commander Reed? Lyra asked, her violet eyes searching his. In answer, Ethan reached into his pocket and withdrew a small box. Inside was a ring of earth silver inlaid with luminescent Xenian crystal. I had this made weeks ago, he admitted. I was waiting for the right moment. Tears glistened in Lyra's eyes as he slipped the ring onto her finger. The crystal responded to her touch, glowing with inner light. They once labeled me a betrayer, she whispered, watching the play of light across the ring. But you saw my true intentions. And I always will, Ethan promised, sealing the vow with a kiss that bridged two worlds. In the months and years that followed, their union would become more than a personal milestone, it would serve as a powerful symbol of what could be built when fear gave way to understanding, when hatred surrendered to love. The path would not always be smooth, but for two people who had already prevented one war through their connection, the challenges ahead seemed navigable, together. The end.